There are moments in life when your own family, the people who are supposed to have your back, deliver a betrayal so sharp, it cuts deeper than any stranger ever could. And what happens when that betrayal explodes into the open, shattering years of unspoken tension? Let me tell you, it changes everything. My name's Alex, and honestly, my family dynamic has always been a twisted knot of unspoken rules and simmering resentment. You know that feeling, right? Where everything looks fine on the surface, but underneath, there's this constant, low hum of tension. That's been my life. We're not struggling, but we're not exactly rolling in money either. My parents did all right, and I followed suit. Got a stable job, paychecks come in, managed to save a little. But then there's my cousin, Danny. He's always been different. We grew up together, but we never truly clicked. He carries this air of entitlement, like the world owes him everything just for existing. It wasn't so obvious when we were kids, but as we got older, it became a glaring problem, especially with me. The way he'd look at me sometimes, it was pure condescension, like he couldn't stand that I was actually doing okay without anything being handed to me. I still remember a few years back, he was complaining about how hard he had it, while literally driving a brand new car his parents bought him. When I mentioned I was doing just fine on my own, he completely shut down, went all defensive. It was classic Danny. Fast forward to now. I was stuck at another one of those dreaded family dinners, just trying to survive. These gatherings, they're always the same. An excuse for everyone to pretend we're a perfectly happy family. We were at my aunt's house, this picture-perfect little suburban place with a white picket fence. But inside, the air was thick with forced smiles and awkward small talk. My aunt, uncle, cousins, the whole crew was there. And right in the middle of it all, loud as ever, was Danny. He was always the loudest person in any room, whether he was boasting about some new gadget or retelling the same stale joke for the 100th time. I just sat there, nodding, trying to become invisible, praying for the night to end. No one ever talked about the real stuff. No one ever acknowledged that Danny genuinely believed he was entitled to everything, just because we shared a last name. And there I was, the black sheep, trying my best to avoid a confrontation while everyone else played along. Then the conversation, thankfully, shifted. My aunt turned to me. "So, Alex, how's work going?" It was a relief, a normal question. "It's good, Aunt." I told her it's steady. She nodded, pretending to be interested, but I knew she didn't really care about the details. That's when Danny started. He looked over at me with that signature smug grin, and my gut instantly clenched. I knew trouble was brewing. "So, Alex," he drawled, tapping his fork against his plate, his voice dripping with faux curiosity. "How's the job? Making good money now? You always seemed like the type who'd do well for yourself." He acted like he genuinely wanted to know, but I saw right through it. He was sizing me up, trying to gauge exactly how much cash I was pulling in. I didn't answer right away. "Oh, I replied, keeping my voice light and casual. "Just the usual. Working, saving up a bit here and there. Nothing too crazy." I kept it vague, watching him closely. I could tell he wasn't satisfied. He leaned in, his voice dropping just enough so only the people closest could hear. "Yeah, well, you got that nice little chunk of change now, huh? Must be nice." He smirked. He probably thought I wouldn't notice the sharp, envious edge in his voice, the unspoken challenge. "I've been thinking about getting a new car," he continued, his eyes glinting. "But, with the way things are, I'm kind of short on cash. You know how it is, right?" He let the words hang in the air, a baited hook. But I wasn't biting. Instead, I just took a slow sip of my drink, feigning complete disinterest. He clearly thought I was too dumb to see what he was doing, fishing for a compliment, trying to guilt-trip me for doing better than him. "Oh yeah?" I asked, my voice still light. "Well, you'll figure out, I'm sure." That's when he pressed harder. "I mean, come on, we're family, right?" Danny leaned in even closer, dropping his voice to a near whisper, though it was loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "Family helps each other out. I was thinking maybe you could spot me a bit of cash, just enough to get that car. I know it's not a huge ask. After all, you've got it pretty good now." He paused, looking at me like I should be grateful for the opportunity to help him. My mind started racing. This wasn't the first time he'd hit me up for money, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. But this time it felt different. He wasn't just asking for help. He was trying to manipulate me, to make me feel like I owed him. My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice steady. "I don't know, man," I said. "I'm not really in a position to be handing out cash right now." I saw the flicker of annoyance in his eyes, but he quickly hid it, flashing a forced grin. "Come on, Alex, it's just family helping out family, right?" His voice was smooth now, trying to sound casual, but I saw right through it. Everyone at the table was watching, dead silent. I could feel the pressure building, ready to snap. But then, I remembered something that had been gnawing at me for months. Something that was about to make his entire act crumble. Slowly, deliberately, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I tapped a few times, scrolling through a conversation. The tension at the table was almost unbearable as Danny watched me, unsure of my next move. I looked up at him, a small, knowing smile forming on my face. "You want to talk about family helping each other out?" I said, my voice dangerously sharp. I swiped the screen, held up the phone, and said, "Then explain this." The room went dead silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, but I didn't look away from Danny. His smirk faltered. I watched his eyes dart from my face to the phone. His expression slowly shifted from smug confidence to utter disbelief. For a brief moment, his lips twitched, like he was trying to speak, but no words came out. And that's when I dropped the first bomb. I pulled up the screenshot. It was a text message from a few months ago, one I'd almost forgotten about until recently. A message from one of my friends, someone who was clearly fed up with Danny's behavior. The message read, "Danny's been talking trash about you again. Told everyone you're just a broke loser who's lucky to have a job." And beneath that, another, even more cutting message. He says you're not even worth asking for help. But hey, I guess I'll only talk to you when he needs something. I watched Danny's face go from pale to completely drained of color. I didn't even need to say anything. The text said it all. My cousin stammered, trying to keep his composure, but it was clear he was cornered. He cleared his throat, his voice shaky. Hey, Alex, that's not." He cut himself off, realizing there was nothing he could say to make this go away. The room remained silent, broken only by the quiet hum of the air conditioning. Everyone was looking between us, uncertainty etched onto their faces. My aunt, usually the family peacemaker, glanced at Danny, then at me, her face tight with confusion. It was obvious she had no idea what was happening. Danny, still trying to save face, forced out a weak laugh. "Look, it's not what it looks like, okay? That's..." His voice faltered as he looked at the phone screen again, as if he was finally processing how badly he'd been caught. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes flicking around the table. His expression was a pathetic mix of embarrassment and frustration. But I wasn't letting him off the hook. "That's funny," I said, not bothering to hide the sarcasm. I didn't realize family talked behind each other's backs like that. But hey, maybe I'm just overreacting, right? I let the silence stretch for a few more seconds, watching Danny squirm under the weight of his own lies. I didn't even have to look at anyone else. I knew what they were all thinking. The worst part? My aunt was starting to connect the dots. She looked between us, then at Danny, her confusion slowly morphing into concern. "Danny, what is this?" she asked softly. "What's going on?" I didn't answer for him. I just let the silence hang, letting the truth settle like a heavy blanket. Danny opened his mouth again, trying to speak, but no words came out. He was running out of excuses, and everyone at the table was starting to see him for what he really was. The smug, entitled attitude he'd worn for years was cracking, and for the first time, I wasn't the one in the hot seat. But just as I thought I had the upper hand, my uncle spoke up. All right, let's just calm down. Everyone's a little on edge, okay? He said, trying to diffuse the situation. But I saw it in his eyes. He didn't truly believe Danny anymore. There was something in the way he glanced at me now, like he was trying to figure out if this was just a family squabble or was something much deeper. Danny, sensing the shift, looked to my uncle for backup. "Dad, this is ridiculous," he muttered. "Alex is just trying to make me look bad in front of everyone. I was just asking for some help, like any family would. This is blown way out of proportion." He was scrambling now, trying to manipulate the narrative, but it was too late. The cracks were showing. I stood up, placing my phone face down on the table. "I'm done with this conversation," I said, my voice cold. "I'm not making you look bad, Danny. You're doing that all on your own." I turned to my aunt and uncle, my voice steady. "You want to know what kind of family helps each other out? A family that doesn't talk behind each other's backs. A family that doesn't manipulate each other when they're in need. That's the kind of family I thought we were." Danny's face was burning red now, and I knew he regretted ever trying to pull this stunt. I could see it in his eyes, that moment when he realized I wasn't going to back down. When he realized this time, he wasn't going to get away with it. He shifted uneasily in his chair, unable to look anyone in the eye. And just before the tension reached its absolute peak, I made my final move. "You want money so badly?" I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "Then explain this." I reached for my phone again, ready to show him exactly what I'd been holding back. But I wasn't showing him just another screenshot. This time, I was pulling up something else, something that would be the final nail in his coffin. I slid my phone across the table, face up, the screen glaring in the dim light of the dining room. The weight of the moment was palpable. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the next move. Even Danny, who looked like he'd seen a ghost. I let the phone rest on the table, not saying a word. The text message on the screen was loud and clear. It was a message Danny had sent to one of his friends just a week ago. "Can you believe Alex actually thinks he's better than me? This guy gets a little bit of money and acts like he's some big shot. I wouldn't trust him with $1, let alone give him any help. I'll just keep playing the victim card. Family will always come through when you need it." The words hung in the air like a slap. Everyone stared at it, the silence suffocating. Even my uncle, who tried to be the peacemaker, sat back in his chair, eyes wide, utterly speechless. My aunt's face was a mix of disbelief and shock, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for her wine glass. Danny's face turned ghostly pale, his hand shaking as he reached out to grab the phone, but I pulled it away just in time. "You want to keep pretending you're the victim, Danny?" I asked, my voice steady, but there was a coldness to it now that cut through the room. "You want to keep playing the family card? Or should we talk about how you've been trash-talking me behind my back, calling me a loser to your friends, all while trying to suck up to everyone else when you need something?" The blood drained from his face, his lips parted, but no words came out. His entire posture was deflated, his usual arrogance gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years: vulnerability. And I could tell by the way his eyes darted around the table that he knew he'd lost this round. The room was dead silent now, save for the soft clinking of my aunt's glass as she set it back down with a shaky hand. My uncle looked at Danny, then back at me, then back at Danny. There was no sign of his usual calm authority, just a weary, disappointed look, like he'd finally realized his son had been the one causing all the mess. Danny cleared his throat, trying to recover some semblance of pride. This is all a misunderstanding," he said, his voice quieter than before, but even I could hear the desperation in it now, the cracks in his defense. "No, Danny," I replied firmly, locking eyes with him. "This isn't a misunderstanding. This is you try to manipulate everyone around you. You've been playing the poor me act for so long, making everyone think you've got it hard, that you deserve help. But you've been using everyone, including me." Danny's mouth opened and closed, but the words wouldn't come. His mind was spinning, searching for some way out of this mess, but there was nothing. His shoulders sagged as the weight of his own actions finally hit him. The arrogance, the manipulation, the lying, it all caught up to him in this one crushing moment. But I wasn't done yet. I turned to my aunt and uncle, my tone softening just enough to show them that this was more than just about Danny's petty actions. I didn't want to have to do this in front of everyone, I said, my voice calm but firm. But you deserve to know what's been going on behind the scenes. Danny's been trying to manipulate everyone in this family for his own gain, and now he thinks he can pressure me into giving him money just because he's family. Danny's eyes widened, and I could see him panic. I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't trying to manipulate anyone. Stop, Danny, I interrupted, my voice louder now, no longer allowing him to weasel his way out. This is exactly what you do. You gaslight everyone around you into believing you're the one who's been wronged. And when that doesn't work, you use the family card to make us feel guilty. I let that sink in for a moment, letting the full weight of my words land. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy, until finally my uncle spoke up, his voice filled with disappointment. This isn't the first time you've acted like this, is it? He asked, his eyes narrowing at Danny. Danny's jaw clenched, and he opened his mouth to protest, but my uncle held up a hand, silencing him. You've been doing this for a while now, haven't you? Using people, playing the victim, and taking advantage of their generosity whenever it suits you. Danny didn't respond. He couldn't. My uncle's words hung in the air, the final nail in the coffin of Danny's carefully constructed facade. I stood there for a moment, letting the gravity of the situation settle. It was finally over. Danny was no longer the golden child who could do no wrong. I could see the cracks in his armor, and they were only getting bigger. But before he could respond, my aunt looked at me, her eyes softening. Alex, I didn't know any of this. I'm so sorry. We should have noticed sooner. Her voice trembled, and it was clear she was struggling to reconcile the son she thought she knew with the person standing in front of us now. Danny shot her a desperate look, but she didn't meet his gaze. She'd seen enough. I could feel the eyes of everyone on me now, and for a moment I wondered if I'd gone too far. But then I realized, no, this needed to happen. It was long overdue. Danny wasn't going to get away with this, not anymore. And if that meant making him face the consequences of his actions in front of everyone, then so be it. The silence lingered, but now it wasn't uncomfortable. It was expectant. The tension in the room was palpable, and I knew this moment was one Danny would never forget. But there was one more thing I needed to say, one last thing that would make sure he understood the full weight of his actions. Just remember, Danny, I said, my voice low, family doesn't help each other by taking advantage of one another. It's about respect, honesty, and not pretending to be someone you're not when you need something. I waited for him to respond, but there was nothing left to say. The ball was in his court now, and I'd made sure everyone here knew exactly who he was. But then my aunt spoke up again, her voice softer now, more apologetic. We're going to need to talk about this later, Danny. All of us. The words were final, and I knew that whatever happened next, nothing would be the same. But for now, I let the weight of the silence linger. Danny finally pushed his chair back, standing up abruptly. His face was flushed, eyes wide with a mix of frustration and humiliation. He glared at me one last time, but the fire he once had was gone. It was replaced by something far more painful, realization. He knew he'd lost, and there was nothing he could do to fix it now. Without saying another word, he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The house seemed to exhale a collective breath, as if the tension had finally lifted. My aunt and uncle sat there, stunned into silence, processing everything that had just unfolded. Alex, my uncle began, his voice still thick with disbelief. I had no idea. I should have been paying more attention. You didn't deserve any of this. I nodded, my chest tightening just a little. I don't expect anyone to know everything, Uncle Mark, but it wasn't just about the money. It was the way he's been treating me manipulating everyone around him, thinking he could get away with it just because we're family. It had to stop. My aunt sighed, her hands trembling as she wiped her eyes. I'm so sorry, Alex. I didn't see it before. I'll make sure we talk about this, really talk about it when Danny calms down. This family can't keep going on like this. I nodded again, my gaze lingering on the door where Danny had exited. In that moment, I realized this wouldn't be the last time this conversation came up, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of relief. It was a brutal confrontation, but it was necessary. The dinner was pretty much over after that. No one really had much to say, and I could tell my aunt and uncle needed some time to process what had just happened. I left shortly after, saying my goodbyes and heading home with a swirling mix of emotions. I was angry at Danny for everything he'd done, but I also felt a strange sense of closure. In the days that followed, I didn't hear from Danny. I knew it was probably best that way. He needed time to process the fallout from his own actions. But what really hit me was how the rest of the family started to treat me. It wasn't just my aunt and uncle who seemed grateful for what I did. It was my cousins, my other relatives. They reached out with messages of support, thanking me for finally standing up to him. It felt good to know I wasn't alone in this, that I had the support of the family who'd seen what Danny had been doing behind the scenes all along. As for Danny, he eventually reached out, but it wasn't to apologize. He wanted something, of course. It wasn't money this time. Instead, he wanted to manipulate the situation again, try to convince me I was the one who had gone too far. He said the family would never be the same after what I did. But honestly, I didn't care. I didn't need to fix everything for him. What I did wasn't about him. It was about finally standing up for myself and showing that I wouldn't let him walk all over me anymore. Things aren't perfect. I haven't heard from him much since that last attempt, and I'm fine with that. It's not easy dealing with someone like Danny, but I made it crystal clear that I won't be a doormat. I'm just relieved that for the first time in a long while, there's a genuine sense of peace in my family. And that's the way it stands now. My question to all of you: what would you have done in my situation? Did I go too far, or was this something that absolutely needed to happen? Let me know your thoughts, because honestly, I'm still processing everything too.